So it's 6 o'clock right now. I guess I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, August 8th, 2024. The meeting was called to order and the agenda for the meeting adopted is circulated, which is 2. It takes us down to 3.1. We have a delegation here from Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. So if you could come forward, please. State your names. Where you're from, who you're from, organization.
I'm Sabrina Brodsky. I'm the liaison officer for Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. My role is to be the primary point of contact for municipalities and local governments, and to be a liaison between government and municipalities. And this is Pam Salter.
I'm the acting maintenance manager for the Capital Region currently, so I oversee the entire maintenance team right now.
Okay, so I guess the main reason we got you out here was more or less to talk about snow removal in the wintertime, so I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I can frame a bit of context. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I think it means a lot that you guys are both here. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, or I think that has come up from residents and people living in the area, is West St. Paul is part of the economic zone of Winnipeg, and a lot of people are driving through it from Selkirk. They're coming from West St. Paul into Winnipeg, the major capital city, the only major capital city in Manitoba. And it's number 9 is an economic corridor, as well as McPhillips. And during major snowstorms, people were asking, does Manitoba Highways get out there during rush hour or before rush hour, or are people left to plow the roads themselves? In some cases, I've had to try and, I tried to go to work and I couldn't, so I had to go back and work remotely. And I know a lot of people had to face the same thing. So I'm just wanting to know if there's some kind of coordination with regards to when there's a major weather event. Will MTI come out and plan for snow removal on a weekday, obviously not a weekend, but a weekday for rush hour traffic in the morning, so that it's available from 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock for prime time rush hour. There doesn't seem to be an issue during the afternoon rush hour, but it always seems to be an issue for the morning. It's an incredible issue. So it's
The dedication of our citizens, I tell you.
Yeah. And I heard the Minister Naylor talk about, that there was a plan, that there's a plan in the works to streamline the operations, to have a 24-hour type of thing, sort of optimize it, more agile. I was hearing that kind of discussion.
Yeah, so that was actually announced in Budget 2024, and the 24-hour service has to do with the perimeter.
Oh, okay.
So it was initially done as a pilot project and then rolled out as a permanent service. And so that was in the event of major weather events that we do have maintenance crews available to attend to ensure that the perimeter is clear and free within for 24 hours. We call on overtime, or we also have recruited retired maintenance employees to come in and they work on a rotation, whereas before that service wasn't available. So that's what the 24-hour and the streamline is related to, is the perimeter.
So that's implemented now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So what about highway number 9 and number 8? That's a real focus, and something that we're really trying to laser focus on to see if there's any improvements that can be made for this year, and that's why we're so happy that you're coming here, because we wanted to get ahead of the issue,
Right.
And discuss so that at least we can sort of optimize our operations with yours.
So I would say, after a major snow event, how soon did you find that highway was cleared?
Usually, I know that our crews would get out there. I would sometimes see snow plows coming on my road and at around 8:15 in the morning, sometimes 10 o'clock, depending.
Okay, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
So there's different, and I'll get Pam to speak more detail to this, but there's different levels of service.
Yeah.
So that outline on the levels of service and the expectation for levels of service is outlined on our government site. It's a public mission statement that we make. So if we're talking about service roads or residential roads that are provincial, that would be a different level of service than Highway 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to focus on Highway 8 and 9
Okay.
for now, because there was a lot of chatter on social media. You know, people were like, they were complaining, how come it's 7:15 or 8:15, whatever it was, and
Yeah.
they were showing pictures of the highway not cleared, and it was like, how come, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's, if we can focus on that, maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll get Pam to address that.
Yeah, so like Sabrina says, we have different levels of service depending on traffic counts and all that kind of stuff. And we do have crews dedicated in the wintertime from our start of winter. I know we don't want to say that word right now. Usually starts around November 1, but obviously if we have snow events, sorry for the S word, before then, we mobilize our fleet, right? But we do have dedicated staff that come in on an early morning route. So they start, depending on where, well, most of the locations start at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Mhm.
So they're running, whether it snows or not, from each of our different yards, there's at least one truck heading out at 4 a.m. If there's a significant event, the majority of the fleet will be mobilized as it can be, depending on, you know, if there's equipment down and stuff like that, right? So we do mobilize at that point in time. I will take it back and look at our maps to see what level of service number 8 and 9 are designated as, just to see, because there are the different hour ratios where we can, where our mission is set, right? So with our level 1 service, we want to be on them and have them cleared within 4 hours after event is finished, right? Ideally, we are on there at the same time the event is happening, but there are those occasions when we have to pull our crew off the road as well, right? When if it's not safe for our crews to be out there for visibility, those type of things, and hours of service that they can work,
Yeah.
then we do have to pull them off the road and start again when it's safe to do so.
Thank you
And
for-
a level 1 highway would be Highway 1, the Perimeter Highway, the Trans-Canada routes like that. That is level 1. So after that snow event has finished, that route has to be cleared within 4 hours. Highway 8 and 9 and 7 are declared as level 2. So I believe they have to be cleared within 8 hours after the snow event. So we try to get to that if like the snow has dwindled down a little bit, but we have 8 hours. And then regional networks, so gravel roads, access roads, and service roads are level 3, and so they have to be done within 24 hours after a snow event.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this question. Thank you for that. That's good information. With regards to level 2, potentially for Highway 7, 8, and 9, what would bring it up to the level 1? Like what? Because I mean, the municipality is growing, a lot of people moving in, lots of development, and you know, there's development happening in St. Andrews and Selkirk. Population is increasing. The corridor is getting busier. When does it trigger to become a level 1?
We would have to, that would be a political conversation that is about both of us. We can take that question back to our senior leadership and see if there is per se a traffic count or a designation. But as far as I know, it's just our major transportation routes, our 75, our Trans-Canada's and the Perimeter Highway.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you'll be bringing it back. I think that there's probably a case to be made that it be looked at because, you know, given in the last 7 to 10 years, there's been a large number, a huge growth within the municipality, and in Winnipeg, and in the people working, like living in Winnipeg, going to Selkirk.
Yeah, commuters.
Selkirk, going back
yeah,
to.
for sure.
And
yeah.
it's just huge, so.
Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
can definitely take it back and see if there is that, you know, you have to get to that trajectory, or if you're at that, or what that looks like.
We're also challenging our municipality to look at hotspots because there's the prevailing winds cause some drifting on certain streets
Yeah.
more than others.
Yeah.
And so I know that on Highway number 9, there are like hotspots where the drifting occurs more often in those spots, like around West St. Paul School and around around St. Benedict's. It'll drift like crazy.
Okay.
So you know, we're like, so I'm just saying on our residential streets, there's drifting happening by the tracks in certain areas.
Okay.
So maybe if you can look at a lens where these drifting spots are happening?
Yeah, if you have, like, if you could send me a list of those specific locations, we can pass those off to the yard and let them know. So in the event there are high winds, or if the yard is aware of something, there are a few maintenance options that can be done, such as like snow ridges can be built in the middle of a field to prevent the drifting, but we would have to kind of look at what that looks like. You know, wind is different year to year. Sometimes it's greater, sometimes it's not. Depends on how much snow accumulation we get, all of those kind of factors. But in the middle of winter, if you're finding it's becoming a problem, shoot me an email. I could pass it off to Pam or the yard, and we can definitely see if we can get to that area.
Super, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Councilor Clyburn?
One of the streets that I think might be level 2, but I'd like you to check it, is Grassmere Road from McPhillips to Penida.
Okay.
And the reason I'm asking for that, not just because I live on that road, but we do have the Winnipeg Seven Oaks School Division there with about 100 school buses.
Yep.
And so what happens is in the spring, that road is quite neglected by you. And there are a lot of times it's, you get a buildup and then it freezes and you've got ruts. And then these guys are bouncing around on that road, and I think it's a safety issue.
Okay.
Because when I'm bouncing around on the road with my car, I know that the school buses are bouncing on that same road, and I think it's a little bit dangerous. And it's not getting cleared in the spring. So I don't know if you're just waiting for it to melt
Well,
or what, but it's not getting cleared.
when you mean cleared, like we just aren't clearing the snow off
Not
of
clearing it, it's just, they're just waiting for it to melt. And so let's say you get a spring snow,
Yeah.
right? Then nobody comes out.
Okay.
And it's not they're not coming out in 8 hours either. So I would think that would probably be a level 2 road.
I don't think
Could be a
Grass-
level 3
Yeah,
even.
it's a network road, right? And a
Okay,
service
but
road,
nobody's
yeah.
coming out in the spring.
Okay.
And so what's happening is we're just waiting for it to melt. And I'm sure there's some people in the audience that live and drive on that road as well in the spring. And it can get really icy
Okay.
and really rutted. And there has to be some kind of maintenance in the spring for that. The other 2 roads that are in Councillor Pactican's ward are Blackdale Road and Miller Road.
Okay.
And there's a lot of traffic going down there, especially Blackdale, because it goes out to Rockwood.
Okay.
And so a lot of people use that road to go out to Rockwood, because it just goes straight out. And then Miller Road is also provincial. We get a lot of, I know when I was Ward 3 councillor, I got a lot of complaints about those roads not getting cleared off properly. So just a heads up, can you guys just pay attention to those roads, especially Grassmere, because it funnels a lot of traffic over to Legends, to Penida. We're putting in, there's a couple subdivisions going in. There's gonna be a lot more people on that road. And so we need that attention to that road.
Okay, we'll let the yard know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Councilor Bichetti?
I'm just looking at your levels map here, and it looks like 7, 8, and 9 are a level 1.
Okay, they
They're
are.
all in the red,
Okay.
yeah, and then places like Penida or Blackdale is a level 3. Part of it's level 3, part of it's level 2.
What about Grassmere?
Grassmere is level 2.
Yeah. It's
So-
not getting cleared.
Cleared within 2 hours, like we'll have conditions where our crew's already been down half the streets in West St. Paul, and we're finally seeing the trucks coming out.
Yeah.
Going
So
down the
another
highway.
option for snow clearing right now for your area is to enter into a snow clearing agreement. We've had some success with municipalities for that, and what it is I can send you a draft of the contract, but essentially is if you have the equipment or the resources to send your crews out, or they're already going past some of our roads, we can pay to have those roads cleared.
They're driving on them anyway, so they're
Right.
using that to get back and
And what
forth.
that really does is it increases the level of service to your ratepayers and gets your roads cleared much quicker. So it's something to consider. I can send you the blank agreement. The department's looking at increasing those rates, that rate hasn't been established yet, so it will consist of the old rates on there, but you can read the terms and the language in that.
I think that would help us out.
Yeah,
We'll
because
definitely look at
we've
it,
got
yeah.
Toshak and Penida, that whole area and their legends, and that Bellingham Row. Our guys are driving down the street, down Grassmere, not doing it because it's provincial.
Yeah.
Then going on to Penida and clearing all that area.
Yeah.
And then coming back out
Yeah.
and not doing Grassmere.
Yeah,
Well,
and so.
they're getting drifted areas in Councillor Pactican's area where, you know, Miller, Willis, all that,
Right,
which they know are the hot spots, as he was saying.
but they can't do
But
it.
yet, the intersection pulling out onto the highway with the open field is just as bad as the road was, so if they're already,
Yeah.
you know, at least to make one trail to get through, so
Yeah.
it's not one car stuck, now you got a train of cars sitting there, so.
Totally. Just keep in mind though, the rates that we are paying are the rates that we pay.
Mhm.
So, you know, they won't be equivalent, but it'll at least be compensation. And you're already out there, you're already running those trucks. I'll send you the contract, you can take a look at it and see if it's something you're interested in.
Anyone else?
Are we still on this, or can we
Yeah.
go to other stuff?
No, just this here. So, okay, I got it. Number 9 and number 8, are they two different divisions, departments?
Are
or-
they two different yards that run them?
Yes.
Not for snow clearing you're talking, right, maintenance?
Snow clearing,
Oh, okay.
maintenance, I think, or snow clearing.
That I'd have to look at a map in front of me, usually to see which, the split division for the yards there, because some of it would, depending on where it starts and stops, there are different, like one yard might stop and start on the same road in different locations, right? So you
Yeah.
wanna know if 8 and 9, which yards look after those roads?
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking is because, you know, I don't live very far off number 9, but on weekends, I usually see the highways department starting down the road or during the weekday. 7:30 in the morning is when they start. And traffic's backed up all the way down following these plow trucks. But I also know that on number 8, there used to be a truck on that road already at 5 o'clock in the morning. Going back 2018 for sure. I don't know what, I think it stopped in 2019, 2020, but I would see a plow truck or a sanding truck or something going down number 8 at 5 o'clock in the morning already. I've seen them on the perimeter, I agree with that, but they were, and I think there was a yard on Miller Road,
There used to be, yeah,
and that used to have grading equipment and all that.
yeah, that was moved. Yeah.
That was moved
It's on
because,
7, it's just across from Stony Mountain.
Yeah.
That's where those ones are, yeah.
yeah, okay, so whenever that yard got moved, I think that's when it got changed, because I used to see a guy, because I would get onto number 9, number 8 at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there would be the same car driving down towards, and I think, oh, this guy's going early, and I'm wondering if that was the snow clearing guy. So
So most
there was
yards in this
somebody-
area that do, yes,
Yeah.
down, I'm gonna say down southern portion, they all have one that start at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but.
But it may just be the one truck out of the yard, right? So depending on which way they're going, what their route is, you may not see them first thing in the morning, right? Because they may not have
This truck was coming off the perimeter, he was going north,
off the perimeter
Yeah.
and heading north.
heading north.
Okay,
So I would imagine he'd turn around somewhere and then
Come
went
back.
back. But
Okay.
I guess that's why when you mentioned that, you know, they're gonna look into it, it was there. It just got stopped for some reason.
Yeah, so I
It's just
don't-
gotta get resurrected again.
Yeah, and I'll speak for our department. We have had quite a bit of turnover in the maintenance area, and so we have had some difficulties filling those positions. You know, that's not a secret. Everyone has had problems filling maintenance positions. We're doing quite well though with recruitment and retention right now, and so we are starting to see levels of service improve in other areas. So very much you could start to see that early service come.
well, it depends on our routes too,
Yeah.
right? So the routes have changed a little bit in the last few years because of the amalgamation with the different regions. So some yards now have more satellite yards, so they have a main yard and a satellite yard and have to encompass that area for their morning run. So that would be where potentially that route, where you used to see them go this way first, right? Maybe they have to go that way first. But we can look into it to see which way the yards run, coming first thing out of the morning, so that we have can better give you guys an idea of where they are, like that portion and which yard serves which portion of the road.
Okay, good. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else.
I got, I want,
Go ahead.
off the snow topic, no, so I don't wanna talk about snow anymore. How about in the ditch clearing?
'Kay,
The
yeah.
bulrushes, especially at intersections with culverts, you know, we get into spring, like our guys were fighting the spring with the freeze thaw, just like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
But when the bulrushes are 6 feet high on the main line going down the highway, and you're trying to get your streets running, and you're trying to fight through thick 5-foot bulrushes, at least in a 10 to 12-foot section from the main culverts at intersections. What's the policy on clearing that? Like, we'll stop at some intersections here, I've almost gotta put my nose into the highway to try to see over them. Like, there's no consistency, they'll go in, they did one street two over, but then they missed the 3 streets in front of that, and I'm going, I don't understand why it's not just every street's getting done.
So the contractors, like, it's contracted, right? So it's not done through.
No, this was MTI trucks that were out doing it with guys with, the weed whackers. They're like, 2 streets up here are done, and the other 4 or 5 have nothing even trimmed.
Just recently then?
Yeah, within the last month. When did I send you that email, Mr. CEO? I think it was just after that they came out.
You'll say about 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was the white trucks with the,
The Buffalo.
Manitoba logo down.
But they were
so-
just specifically cutting down bulrushes at the.
At intersections. Yeah, they were going
Okay.
a little ways in, and
Okay.
so I don't know if they had a tape measure. If it goes over this height, we cut it. If it's just under that, we don't. Well,
Okay. Because when it comes to mowing, like, that's done through a contractor.
Yeah, the
It's a
mowing part, I
bid-
know that.
Yeah, it's a bid
these
on
guys were just
works.
knocking down, I think it was probably a 10 to 12-foot section at an intersection. So
Okay.
that, you can see around it to make it safe to turn up.
Okay, yeah, we'll touch base with the yard and see.
But
Yep.
the mowing, now that you brought it up, like, we have to start, I know we hate thinking about, the snow season.
Yeah.
But we have to worry about the spring at the same time where it's frozen solid in those bulrushes and you can't get anything flowing.
Yeah.
And our guys, your people will be back and forth, same ditches over and over, back and forth, because you can't fight to get through the stuff.
Okay, is there a specific ditch that's a problem, or?
Let's say the perimeter to St. Andrews. Because that's pretty well where you see, well, if you look from pretty well the school,
Okay.
just past Rivercrest, that whole corner where the Main Street turns, those yards are flooded because those ditches are not flowing. Rivercrest, Shumsky Landscaping, the Rivercrest Hotel.
But aren't they addressing this when we start doing the expansion? I believe I was in a meeting with you where we talked about potentially grading that
Yeah,
ditch.
they were, but, it's,
So I think this is being addressed in that project. I believe it's been a conversation
yeah,
topic.
I know it has, because I think we had another meeting with some of the MTI and they were looking, ditches were all on there, so.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's just a policy on, there's still gonna be ditches, there's still gonna be
Yeah.
bulrushes. You gotta keep it clear, or else we're kinda spinning our wheels every time we get to spring going, we can't get through here.
okay. If there's a problem area, like I said, send me an email, send me pictures, we'll send somebody out.
There's been a problem area for the last 5 years, your trucks are up and down here, and the landowners are literally pumping over culverts that haven't been running for half a dozen years.
Okay, we'll talk to the yard
Mhm.
about
Anyway,
it.
anywhere from Rivercrest up to
That Shumsky's is really.
up to Rivercrest Hotel, up to past Weary, I guess, yeah. And that whole corner to Lister Rapids.
Okay. We'll talk to
Is
the
that on
yard.
west side or east side?
The west side.
West side.
Okay,
Yeah, the west side's backed right up to almost to this guy's building,
The
every
east
spring.
side's, the east side's pretty good
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it has a direct flow to the
river.
okay.
Yeah, we'll look into it. Yeah, talk to the superintendent in the area.
But the same companies are now, like, they've got pumps set up over culverts. And then they go 3 over from them and they're still putting more and more pumps
Right, right.
just to get it over the culvert. So it is a problem spot, so, thank you.
Councilor Beck, you had something?
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm not sure if it's your area to comment, but maybe you just you can let me know or bring it back to the team or let me know who I could speak to. But just with regards to lighting
Okay.
on provincial roads,
Okay.
I've had some residents bring up that they would like to see additional lighting. So I just want to understand, is it Manitoba Hydro that puts the light up, but then who pays for the light? Is it the city, or pardon me, is it the RM, or is it the province with regards on PRs?
It honestly depends
Okay.
where the lighting location is. Is there already lighting there? There's a set of standards and rules, and we work with Manitoba Hydro as well for the installation and the coordination of that.
Okay.
If MTI has already put in a light, but you would like to see extra lighting, we can sometimes do a cost shared program. It really depends. So if there's a specific location you're looking for, send that to me and I can forward that on to our area that looks after lighting.
Super. Thank you very much for coming, by the way, and
Yeah.
for collaborating with us.
Yeah.
Much
Anything
appreciated.
else? Okay, so then you'll be getting back to us on some of these things?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that form for the shared,
Yes.
the highways clearing.
I will send it to your CAO. Yeah, as
Okay.
well for your.
Once again, thank you for coming. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your insights.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Yeah,
You too.
You too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
So this now takes us to 4.4, legislative and finance. So we're doing the financial statements ending June 30th, 4.4.1. We're ready to go then? See,
Alright, so I'm here tonight to present our June 30th, so we're halfway through the year. As you will see on the balance sheet, further down near the bottom there, we will be showing a surplus at this time of year. Right there, so we have 3.963 million in surplus. On to the next statement, our statement of operations. That'll be on page 3. You'll see on the top portion here, we have inputted our tax levy. So what that means is we've received all our tax bills, we've received the download from the province. So everything has been recorded on the books at this time in regards to taxes that we will be collecting. You will see there is a difference between the tax levy budget and the tax levy actual. That is due to the change in the school tax rebate that is now shown on the tax bills. So in the end, it nets out to the same total tax levy, but you'll have a couple of differences in the individual line items related to the tax levy and the education special levy. Further down, I didn't see any significant changes except for in our unconditional government transfers. You'll see the provincial amount there at 600,000. That is our operating grant that we receive. We received a portion of it. The balance is to come later this year.
Commissioner, I just have a quick question,
Yeah.
just because it kind of relates to, so let's say, you know, other people will probably be asking this, so I'm sure you will ask questions. So like my tax bill, I always pay tips.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year's kind of a funky year, you know. So it says that I owe, let's say $153 by September 30th or something like that.
On your tax bill, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yep.
because I pay tips.
Yep.
But now, are you guys gonna automatically take that? 'Cause
No.
you always-
So your 153, your tax bills were printed as of April 30th.
Yeah,
We have to set a cutoff date when we submit everything to the province in order for them to print our tax bills. We can't do to the date of printing. So April 30th is our cutoff. You'll see there is a balance. If you are on tips, you would have had a May and June payment come out as well, which would have then put you, if you had 153, I'm assuming your payments was, we'll say $500 a month, then you would have a credit on your account. What we did for people with tips is we took that credit amount and offset your payments for the following year. So that your payments they won't be as high as they normally would be if the rebates hadn't changed.
Okay,
So we've applied the credit to 2025 tips monthly payments.
Sure, but so like me or anybody else, do I have to make a payment for
No,
September 30th?
no.
Okay, that's
Yeah, so your taxes have been paid. We sent out letters about end of June. We
Yeah.
tried to catch that July payment, so we didn't pull the July payments unless we absolutely needed to, because you still had an amount owing. Normally, those are the people that were assessed later, had added taxes, and their added taxes weren't taken into consideration with their tips payments.
Yep.
There was, I want to say, 80 of those out of, I think we have about 700 people enrolled in tips or so. So, it's a small handful.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna run into an issue, like even like I said, for myself, I think it showed $153 owing for September 30th, so I was like, well, that's strange
Yeah.
if I'm on tips, why do I still owe?
Yeah, it was as of April 30th. All the information is in our insert that we include with the tax bills. I know a lot of people don't read the insert, but there is a lot of important information relating to the tax bills and relating to the whole process and the tax due dates and whatnot in that insert. So I highly recommend people to take a read. A lot of the questions that we do receive here in the office are answered in that insert.
Mhm.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
On the third page, tax levy,
Mm-hmm.
you have budgeted 18,472, and your actual is 13,313. Why is there such a variance there?
Like I said, that is due to the the school tax rebate that the government changed partway after we started our budget process. We don't know what that rebate is going to be, and the problem is farm property receive 50%, residential receives 50%, other properties receive 10%. The province did not issue us that amount of the rebate in our documents when we originally started the budget process. I'm hoping next year, though, that they will include that line item for that rebate, which then would adjust that. But as you can see, our total tax levy on the bottom there, the difference is $1,000. So we've collected less, 5 million less in taxes, but we're also remitting 5 million less to the schools.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so page 4 of that is just the final bottom line of our total revenues, so what we budgeted, what we have to date. This, the page 5 here is our expenses. Everything in my review is status quo. Your increases, majority of it is due to your wages. Every 2 weeks, the employees are paid. And then you have your standard monthly payments, such as garbage and recycling. You'll have some professional contract services, so our monthly printer service agreements, office supplies that we need for majority of its paper. We have our services with Stantec for lot grading, so you'll see those expenses will increase monthly based on the amount of work that they provide for the office.
So, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
environmental health services, is that your garbage collection?
Yeah, so that would be your garbage and recycling.
So are we tracking online with that? Because that usually depends on the amount of houses we have, correct?
Are we, sorry, what? I
The
didn't quite
charge
hear
on
what-
garbage, on recycling is related to how many houses we have.
Right,
How many
so-
pickups we have.
Right, so
right?
it's based on collection.
Yes,
It increases every month based on the amount of bins that have been delivered.
okay.
So we are billed in June based on the amount of bins that were delivered in up to May 30th.
Okay.
And then July's billing, June's billing. Yeah, June is based on May, July is based on June. It depends
You're
the
one
amount
month
of bills that,
behind? Yeah, okay.
or bins, sorry, that were delivered. Materials and supplies, those are the cost of the bins that have been delivered to the residents.
Okay, thank you.
So like I said, no major concerns in the expense side of the operations. And then again, on the following page here, you'll see close to the bottom, our operating surplus is the same that we show on our balance sheet, so the 3.963. The next set of statements, these are our reserves, so this is the amount that we have in reserves as of June 30th. The due to, due from, those fluctuate based on revenues that come in and expenses that go out. So those expenses were determined at budget time. Those are all our capital items that were approved. The following set of statements is for our River's Edge utility. You'll see here they have a small surplus of $8,000. And that also links back to the next page, that is our statement of operations. So again, your revenues less your expenses brings you to your surplus. No major concerns here at this point in time. And then we have a reserve balance. This is related to the River's Edge sewer itself. They have their own separate rates from the majority of the sewer, as they have their own treatment plant. So once that treatment plant, if and when it is decommissioned, then they will join this sewer. But there's no talk of that occurring at this point in time. So our next set of statements is for our sewer utility. If you see closer to the bottom here, we do have a surplus of $560,000. That surplus comes from our statement of operations, which is the following statement. Again, your revenues less your expenses. The revenues for all utilities are up to the end of June 30th, so we've billed out 2 quarters so far.
Excuse me, can you go back to the page where you said there was a surplus of 500,000?
Yeah, it's on the following, or the previous page, I should say. That's our balance sheet for a sewer. So just there, it's 560,000.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see it here.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then it also shows that on your statement of operations on the last page. There's just the one liner there.
yeah,
So they're
okay.
two the same. So like I said, we have billed out 2 quarters. We have 2 quarters worth of expenses in here. You'll see come July and August, you'll have expenses, but your revenues won't change a significant amount. They will change based on final billings that do go out in our process. So you'll see that surplus slowly go down, and then come September again, as long as we have no major expenses related to the sewer, you'll see the surplus should increase based on the revenues that we will receive for September 30th. So this next statement here, these are our reserve balances for the sewer utility. So this is all the surpluses over the last 10 years have been deposited into the reserve account. As per the PUB, we have to ensure that we have enough reserve funds for future repairs and maintenance and replacement of the sewer lines. Following that is our water utility. So same thing, we have a little surplus of 119,000. That is also shown on our statement of operations, which is your revenues less your expenses. No major concerns at this point in time for the water utility. Again, we've billed out the 2 quarters. We have 2 quarters worth of expenses. So we're sitting pretty good for the water utility at the June 30th. And then we have a small reserve balance in the water reserve, and this is directly related to the water utility itself. Then we go into our capital items. So we have a couple of items that have been completed to date. We have the sanding plow truck that has been received, as well as Rossmore Road has been completed. We've received the billings for it. And then you'll see that there's a couple of other items that we've received a few expenses, a few invoices that have been paid in relation to those. You'll start to see a lot of these expenses start to come in closer to the end of the year as projects wrap up, and companies invoice the RM. We've included all our anticipated start dates and completion dates, except for a couple of items. I haven't received any dates on those. Are there any questions, concerns, comments?
Just one, two, actually two. So I guess there were some projects that were supposed to be completed on July 31st. One of them was the Arch at Meadowlands, and the other one was King's Landing. So I guess, do you have an update on that? Or
These
is that-
statements are as of June 30th.
Okay.
The Arch, we were waiting on some information from the developer, I believe, right, Mr. CAO?
I think the arch is complete.
Okay, because there was, yeah, the Arch is done, but we were waiting on, okay, there was an email that went out. I was told to hold off on
Yeah, there's a small.
issuing the check.
I think there's a small amount of landscaping grass.
Okay, so that's what it was. So the landscaping hasn't been 100% completed, so
That actually may.
might have been done in the last 2 weeks since I come back from holidays. Okay, so yeah, so it'll show as an update on the July statements.
Okay. You know what?
Uh,
I saw July 31st. I'm thinking this is August. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we're always a month
Yeah, I know.
behind just for processing to allow for all those expenses to be realized.
Yeah.
June ends and then we're invoiced for
Yeah,
June,
yeah.
so,
I appreciate that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just more accurate statements presented to council.
No, that's good.
Question.
Councilor Patka?
Yeah, thank you very much, Crystal, for the updates on the financial statements. This last page is a page I always like looking at. And thanks for the information that it's a bit of a lagging report by about 5 weeks. So on that note then, I want to give a suggestion. With regards to the completed bar, is it possible, just for council, is it possible to put a percentage complete on there? And maybe the CAO can chime in on this or not. I'm not sure if there's some value there, but I think month over month, it would be nice to see that, because there's a lot of October 31st, 2024 anticipated completion dates, and maybe not everyone's going to get completed, but for those that are like 30%, 40%, like about now, we would want to see them probably at 30 or 40% complete. But could that be added maybe? And if something is going to go sideways, maybe can perhaps put a notation below this chart that shows there's some risks associated with a particular project and why it may not meet the anticipated deadline. Is that possible? Just to give some context.
Yeah, I don't see there being an issue with that. It's just I'll have to communicate with the department heads and receive the information from them. My information's limited to what
Yeah. Oh, no,
I get from them,
No, I
obviously.
totally understand. I mean,
but-
just in the same vein that the mayor was asking, I too was thinking, I see a couple of things that are July 31st, but then that you said it's a lagging report, so.
Yeah.
I think there would be some value by putting on some notes for this, saying.
For sure.
We're working through issues, or here's the percentage complete, that would provide some good context.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can add, and I think that's relevant information to a lot of these projects. Some projects, of course, kind of happen all at once, like a procurement or things like that. It's sort of, there's a tendering, there's the ordering, and then
Yeah.
you go from 30% to 100% upon delivery, something like that, right? So, sort of the gauging of the percentage of completion might not always be
Your
an
best
accurate
guess,
indicator
yeah.
where things are in, but for a lot of these, for example, road construction and so forth, it would be, right? So I think that's something we could add.
Thank you.
So I guess I just want to add something. So instead of you chasing them for the information, you have monthly meetings with them, with the department heads?
Yeah.
So is that something they should be presenting to you at the monthly meetings, so that they know they have to present it to you?
We'll sort out a process.
Yeah. Just so it sounds like you're going to be chasing them, and we don't want you.
No, not necessarily.
No?
Like
Okay.
they're really good if I send out an email.
Just further on that, though, is a project may be completed, but we haven't received the billing
Yeah, no,
at time of
yeah.
completion. Sometimes that can take about 6 weeks.
Yeah, oh, okay. Thank you.
Just a comment,
Counselor?
I'm just wondering, we had a kind of an email going back and forth on just one that it's been asked for years by the fire department, but I still see it's outstanding, that dryer. But yet, when they brought it up to us in budget, it
Yeah.
was supposed to be in stock or like,
They are working on receiving the 3 quotes, because it is over 8,000. So the last I talked to the fire chief, he said that they were working on receiving the 3 quotes for the dryer. And anticipated, I believe I put October 31st, it potentially could be sooner than that.
because they had 2 quotes already during budget.
Yeah.
So, like, one was
But,
now, one was,
The fire chief will be here to speak to some specifics later on this meeting.
oh yeah, okay, it is this meeting.
Yeah, this meeting.
Go ahead, Councillor Campbell.
You're done, Councillor?
Yeah,
Gibson?
yeah, good.
I would just like to see and get a follow-up on the business park sign, to see if we've contacted Hydro about getting at least a power move. That's 6 months out as it is, so that's something that if we haven't done, it should be done.
Yeah, I'd raise that with Public Works, but I'll follow up to make sure that that's
Mayor? if I may.
Councillor Clywood?
PR 15, shelter and benches north side of Grassmere Walking Bridge. Developer dependent. What's going on with that? Anybody?
So last I spoke to our economic development officer, she mentioned that they're working on getting some of the other landscaping in phase 1 and 2 completed in Parkview, and then looking at having the landscaping completed in there. So that area, my understanding with my conversation with her is that they will be doing the landscaping side of things, but that's it. And I believe in this request, it was for a shelter or picnic bench or a bench along the path or whatnot. It's not necessarily us landscaping it. The developer will be doing the landscaping side of things. This is to add a little extra to that piece of land.
Okay, and PR 13, the PW fence privacy slats, there was some urgency to this when it was brought to council during budget, and what's happened there? Did they get that done? Because I see a completion date, June 24th.
Yes,
Just waiting for the invoice?
yes, I believe the slots have been completed. I think the invoice was just processed on our last run.
Okay, all right.
So
thank
that'll
you.
update come July.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Anyone else?
Can I just bring up one last thing? It's kind of not really related to this, but
Okay.
just want to mention that with regards to the candidate planning committee, the committee is going to be putting together a financial report that will be made available at some point later this fall, is what I'm thinking. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Go ahead.
Brad. So the report will come, I'm hoping by the end of September. There is a couple of invoices that I saw come through on my desk for processing on our next check run. So I want to ensure that all those expenses have been realized before we issue a report or have to reissue a report later on this year.
Thank you.
Good.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information you gave us.
You're welcome.
So that now takes us down to 4.4.2, appointment of Board of Revisions.
Okay, this report is to outline or make recommendations in terms of the appointments for the 2025 Board of Revisions, with the meeting being held on this upcoming November, and to appoint the presiding officers and the presiding officer of the board itself and the secretaries for the board. The recommendation is to reappoint Glenn Lescue, Terry Netlick and Lauren Saunders to the West St. Paul Board of Revisions, and that council appoint Glenn Lescue to serve as the presiding officer, and Crystal to act as the secretary of the appointed board. So it's essentially outlining the appointments for the Board of Revision.
So you mentioned Crystal was going to be the secretary, or
Yes, it's a recommendation.
her name's not in here?
It's the proposed recommendation, the second recommendation at the end of the report.
Oh, okay, oh, right, okay, down on the bottom here, okay. I thought you'd have a separate paragraph by yourself up here. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, okay, good. Now going down to the tax sale reserve bid, 4.43.
This is your report, Crystal, but I can speak to it. It's to basically to set the reserve bid for properties to be sold to the be sold at the RM tax sale scheduled for this October 16th, 2024. And the recommendation is that council place a reserve bid on property subject to tax sale in the amount of property tax arrears plus penalties plus tax sale costs as the reserve bid on properties for tax sale.
Any questions? So is it, the reserve bid, is that different for every property, or is it just a flat, or it's different for every property?
Yes, it would be
Okay.
different for every property depending on the outstanding property tax arrears and the penalty, any penalties.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, next is 4.4, tender 2405, tandem axle dump truck completed with drop-in sand unit.
Yes, this report recommends the approval of the award of the tandem axle dump truck with drop-in sanding unit. We had a capital budget of $450,000 in the 2024 financial plan, and we advertised the tender in the Selkirk Record, the municipal website, and on Merck's. We received 3 bidders. Maximum truck and trailer is the low bid at $299,343. Inland truck and equipment was second lowest at $309,634.78, and Connection Trucks Center Limited was third lowest at $389,384.53. The inland truck and equipment bid included a heavy-duty box and aluminum rims, which added a total value of approximately $5,100 additional value to the bid. But more importantly, the inland equipment can deliver the truck in 4 months' time, as opposed to the Maxim supplier, which is indicating that delivery is somewhere in the 14 to 15 months period of time. So given the relatively low differential in the 2 bids amount, the recommendation is to award to inland truck in the amount of $309,634.78.
Any questions?
I'm just.
Councilor
just a
Bichette.
comment. Yeah, I agree with the recommendation here. Like, the last time we had that truck in, I think it was 12,000 or something of repairs. If we're getting this before, well, the way it looks, hopefully before the snow falls, you know, it could save us that one breakdown that's gonna put us over the cost of the next lowest one, so.
Yeah, and or more, right?
Well,
Or more.
they were already saying they were having diff issues and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
with it, and all we need is one breakdown, and it's kind of blown that $10,000 difference out of the water, so.
Plus the reduction in service level as well that happens from the breakdown.
One thing it didn't show in here, do we know, are we getting the same trade-in value from all 3 companies, or?
Yes, no, I'm sorry, no, but the bid prices do include the trade-in value. So it's the,
Okay.
that's the bid minus the trade-in value that it's providing. So the trade-in values are different, but that is the final value.
No, I agree with this, just, we get one breakdown, it's gonna blow us out of the water there, so, if we can find the part.
Councillor, back to Ken?
Yeah, I too agree with the recommendation. It's below our budget threshold, which is great. And, you know, I don't know too much about sand trucks. I'm sure it's gonna apply the sand really great. But if there's any innovations that this truck does beyond the old one, at some point, I'd like to hear about it. If it does something more cooler or better, that'd be nice to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
First, Councillor Pactan, it holds twice the sand.
Oh,
This
does
is
it?
a
Oh,
ta-
okay.
This is a tandem instead of a single axle,
Okay.
which is gonna carry more weight, more sand to
Yeah.
get out in one run rather than running guys back and forth to
That's
fill
good.
up,
That's
so.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? So I remember reading that they had, the cost of the dump truck, and then there was an extra cost for bonding. Is that right? Is that extra? Bonding.
I'm not sure what bond is.
Guaranteeing,
Oh, warranty?
placing a bond?
I think we might be thinking of another report, Mr. Mayor.
You're thinking of something else, you're thinking something different. Later on,
Maybe,
you are,
oh, it is?
for sure.
Yeah,
it's later
bonding
on.
would be the contractor coming to work for us,
Yeah,
so that they're guaranteed.
That's,
Okay.
that's the pathways.
if I find it, I'll let you know. Okay. Next on the list is 4.5 sponsorship. Dream Soccer Academy.
It's, this is a letter to council requesting consideration of sponsorship for the 1v1 Football Dreams Soccer Academy. And they're, I guess, have plans to attend the Tokyo National Soccer Championship, or pardon me, the Toyota National Soccer Championship in Cape Breton. And with it, there's an opportunity for the RM to have their logo featured on their jackets, training tops, or on their social media platform. I understand that sponsorship for this group has occurred in the past.
Councilor Bichetti?
Yeah, I have.
Yep, Councilor Bichetti.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
This is an email I got from a resident who lives in the trails. It also, not only is it a resident in the trails, but the team is actually training out of our industrial park. That's where they have their training center made up. The coach is out of there. So it's not just a couple of players, it's actually the coach and the training academy that goes with this, so. Just to bring a little bit more to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
Councilor
just gonna say
Colbert?
the same thing. I know that these are West St. Paul residents on the team, as well as the training facilities in our community, so it would be a good sponsorship for them.
It's very high level.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Maybe you could ask Crystal, our CFO, what do we have left in our sponsorship bucket there?
Well, something like this would have to come out of your
Personal,
special initiatives.
yeah,
Funds.
yeah,
So council could either choose to split it 5 ways, or one counselor can take it on,
okay,
or split however you choose.
okay. I'm willing to split that with anybody.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'm good.
Three-way split?
Do we
Forward.
wanna do 1,000? 1,500, what do we wanna do?
How many is there?
Hold on, I'm just getting back to the.
In my opinion, it'd be probably prudent to keep it the
Thousand.
same as we did for, the other one. I think there was 2 different teams, and I think we did 500 a team.
thought it
No, I
was-
think we did more.
thought it was
No,
750.
For
I
the
thought it was
teams, we did
750.
750,
I thought it
right?
was 750.
Yeah, so the last time that council has sponsored this team, was chosen to do 1,500 for the last, and that was 2022.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
So if we go out of 3 pots, 500 each out of each pot. I'm good with that, okay.
Oh, yeah, I could picture it. So,
Yeah.
Everyone there?
Yeah, that's fine.
5?
Split it 5 ways?
there's five ways, yeah.
1,500, 5 ways, we're good.
Okay. Anyone, anything else? Okay. Then we're down to 4.4.6 miscellaneous correspondence policy.
So, this report came out of some discussion that we had at a recent council meeting where the question came up as to why miscellaneous correspondence was being approved at council meetings. So, this is, the report proposes replacing the existing miscellaneous correspondence policy to have the regular meeting of the committee changed, or the regular meeting changed to committee of the whole, whereby miscellaneous correspondence will be brought to the committee of the whole, and that it will be received as information. And furthermore, we'll remove the need to request an item from miscellaneous correspondence to be brought forward to a future meeting. This is sort of a redundant clause, is that it's already provided for within the procedures bylaw. So generally, the rationale for this is you know, as the municipality is growing, we're getting more and more miscellaneous correspondence, large amounts of it, and this sort of expedites the process of managing it.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, we're not making any decisions on the correspondence, we're just looking at it, so.
Yeah, just changing the
Yeah.
procedure for
We're just accepting
for
it as
receiving it.
information, yeah.
They'll still be presented in a transparent form for the public though.
I'm good with that.
So I got a question on policy. I wonder if it can be more definitive than what was written in it, as opposed to weren't practical. It usually comes out at a cow meeting, so can we just have a date in? Like, what happens if we don't have a cow meeting? What happens to the policy? When does it come out? Because that doesn't address it in that. Could we just have it come out every second Tuesday as part of the policy?
Regular planning meeting.
I think the idea was to present this at, or present miscellaneous correspondence monthly at the cow meeting.
Okay. And if we don't have a cow meeting?
We could put language or the next, the following meeting, if not available at the committee.
It happened, we present it monthly though, right? So-
Yes.
Yeah.
so
There was one, in June, we didn't have a cow meeting. We were at the convention.
Oh, you're right.
So
Okay,
sometimes,
fair point.
sometimes we don't,
I follow you now. Okay,
Right.
okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can make that change, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now we're down to 4.5.1, request for service report. Anyone have any questions on the service report?
Mayor, I do have a question about, we've contracted now, a company for zoning.
By law enforcement?
Yeah, so by law enforcement. I just wanted to know if you had an update on how they were doing on some of the files.
Yes, they've followed up on a number of different long-standing files. Progress has been made on a number of cleanups, as well some weekend response has occurred to deal with specific instances or to just to check up on events to make sure that everything was functioning properly. So we've sort of increased the workload with the contractor, and so far things are proceeding quite well.
Good, good to hear.
Any other questions, comments?
Just maybe you could take this away or come back to us at a future time, Mr. CAO, but for service requests that, I don't know how you say this, that are more challenging to solve, to resolve, because they could be either at a different jurisdiction, or maybe they are a noise complaint, and, you know, the staff will go, the noise complaint is not evident, and it's difficult to deal with that, to enforce it or to follow up. What kind of follow-up happens back to a constituent on that? I'm just curious to find out. Is that information reported on these reports?
So request for services, feedback is received by residents in the form of your request for service has been received, and has been reported, and we will follow up. So confirmation that the request for service has been received does occur. Because of sort of our policy in terms of sharing information around bylaw complaints, action taken against against issues pertaining to bylaw enforcement, privacy concerns, and so forth, very little can be shared, sort of in terms of sort of what the result of follow-up on those complaints is. If it's an issue such as, could I get my windrow cleared, or could I get my repair made to my street or so forth, follow-up can occur in that way in terms of sort of the operational action. But in terms of bylaw enforcement, there's very little that can be shared other than your request for service has been received and will be addressed.
Thank you.
Further to that, may I ask for a CAO to Mayor? Noise bylaw complaints. We're not really doing anything with that after regular hours, are we? Because how would you put a request for service in for that, other than a big event? So unless a big event occurs, if somebody's doing fireworks at 11 o'clock at night, there's nobody really there to do any bylaw.
Well, certainly if there's disruptive activity that's occurring
We'll
at any time,
RCMP, right?
you contact the RCMP.
Right.
If there's an event that's occurring that we're aware of, and what we've done is we've started taking up the practice of being proactive in terms
Yeah.
of keeping an eye on the event. I mean, there is a cost associated with that, but we're proactively looking to make sure that people know that we are out and about. We are within the municipality on weekends and otherwise, and if their event isn't complying with the noise bylaw, then it'll be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Shetty, you had something?
Two comments, yeah. When you call the RCMP about noise bylaw before 11, all they tell you, especially if it's a councillor calling in, they recognize a name, is they say, you know your own bylaw. We can't do anything before 11. So that's basically their answer to you. And then on a noise bylaw, I'm going to be very vague here. On a company that we set some hours to, that we've had complaints with loud banging. Has anyone been following up with that to see if the hours are being followed?
I think it's important to understand that when a conditional use is set, the terms of the conditional use only apply if whatever the conditional use was applied to proceeds. So if in particular, for example, if I had a manufacturing facility and I wanted to expand that manufacturing facility, I might have a conditional use that put restrictions on my operation if I expand it, for that expansion. If I have not expanded that facility, if I haven't taken action to make changes to that facility, the conditional use does not apply, or is not enforced, or is not enforceable, because the conditional use only applies to changes to a facility that have been sought. And until there's a building permit or anything else taken out to make changes for that facility, the conditional use is not enforceable. It's only enforceable on the changes.
However,
So, can I just finish?
There was
Can-
a condition that if repairs take place, that would fall under the conditional use.
If you need to pull a permit for the repairs.
Which
If
my
I change a
understanding
light
was
bulb.
it had to happen.
Yeah, if I change a light bulb, right?
No, that's true. But if you're doing any kind of other
requiring the-
renovations,
We're requiring the pulling of a permit.
so if the person didn't pull the permit even though they were supposed to pull the permit,
Well, then that's a different issue.
that's an issue, yeah, okay.
Councilor Bichetti?
I just can't understand this. If the business came in for a conditional use, so it's almost like they came in for a conditional use just to keep us off their backs for a little while till the end of the expiration of this conditional use then. We went back and forth for months for no reason then.
A business will only need to come for a conditional use if they were making a change or wanted to make a change. And until a change is made, the conditional use isn't enforceable. The conditional use applies to the change.
But did they not make an application for a conditional use? Did
They
they
have to
not
act
make,
upon
they made the application to us. We didn't go to them for an application. So that should, to me, tells me, okay,
No,
that's them asking for a change. This should start right after council approves or denies.
But there's always a clause, should you not act on this conditional use, it will become null and void within 1 year, right? I think that's what it is.
I thought it was 2 years. but
So
it's 2
if they don't act on it, then it's null and void. Then it doesn't exist.
And if they wanna make a change or otherwise, then
If they're making changes
know
without a
They have to
possible
go forward.
permit, then that's another issue, right?
Right.
Yeah, so if change is taking place, even if it's minor change, that would constitute a permit. And if the permit's not being taken out, then it doesn't hit that conditional use. So you have to have them taking out that permit, that building permit.
Go ahead, Councilor
So are
Bichetti.
building permits needed to start changing the landscaping and the berms and stuff in the area? Then maybe we should ask for a permit. Well, it's changing drainage in the property, is it not?
It's,
I think we're getting into specifics.
Yeah, I know we're getting into too specific. We'll go off. I was just, when you said that, it kind of just, whoa, wait a minute, we have to wait. We went back and forth for no reason then here, so. Okay.
So I have a question with the year-end, the year-to-date. I don't know if someone can answer it. If they can't answer it today, then do it another. When, I'm underneath the assumption that when this report comes out, let's say for July, that's the cutoff. If there's work being done, if there's added work being done on a complaint that happened in July and the work is being done in August, does that show up in the August report or the July report? That, because I see, you got hours worked and total cost being tracked. So do they go back into the report back months when there's a project when you're working on a complaint? Let's say grass cutting. Grass cutting was done in June. You didn't get the bill till July. Does that go into the Junes or does it stay in Julys? As an example.
I would think
This would be July time.
Yeah,
Yes, I know, but it's just a question, because I noticed, it seems that when you add up all the months, like if you go for if you take the number of total cost per month, it comes out to 21,000, but the year-to-date report shows 31,000. So there's a $10,000 difference. So I'm thinking that they must be going back into previous months and adding the dollar figures into those months as opposed to
I see
into
what you're saying.
this month.
I could follow up on that if you'd like and
Yeah,
try to reconcile where the difference is.
yeah, what it, like,
So is it closed when the invoice comes, or is it closed when you do the work?
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, if it's closed when the invoice comes, then it should be in the month that it happens.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
Right, so if you get the invoice in July for weed, let's say for weed control, then it should be showing up in July, not in May or June or whatever.
Yeah, after work was done in May.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
So you either choose when the work is done, or you choose when the invoice was,
Was issued,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I could get that for you.
And the other thing, I guess, what I noticed too is that, you know, it's down, it's better last year than this year. So according to yearly date, last year 36% were done through the web. This year we're down to 32%, which is better, but I'm just wondering if we can shed some, you know, it's just a comment, like what, if there's something that can be done to have the residents doing more complaints on the web as opposed to staff putting it on the web, because this means that staff did 68% of all the complaints they entered in, right? If we can get the residents to do that, it might help the staff with their time.
On the newsletter again, because did we not last year put it on a newsletter right in the spring sometime about requests for services? I think a little, once in a while, a little
Yeah.
boost to refresh it to the residents. It's a common question from residents, well, how do I do that? And I'll grab my phone and literally go into it,
Yeah.
showing them, so.
I know, it's a really a difficult thing because we, counselors get called all the time to do it. Because they don't want their name attached to it, because they don't want retribution from their neighbor if they're complaining about their neighbor.
No, but
It's
does,
not even us.
So,
but does council phone the office, or do they go online and enter it online?
both. If I'm too busy, I'll send it to one of the staff, right? Otherwise, I'll do it, but
Because, you know, like when you do it online, you get the number right there and then.
yes,
right?
you do.
If staff does it, you know, they have to enter it in and then they have to email the number to you, so it basically adds to their workload. It's a lot easier if.
We
if it's there.
probably do need something in the newsletter again, and maybe, I don't know if we have to show a step-by-step, but it's pretty easy. Here's request for service, here's where you find it, and here's how you fill it out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councilor Bichetti.
When we do an email blast, is there a way to put a link right on there with a little tutorial of it? Is that like a video, something of how to, you know, when you go into the tutorials on when
Yeah,
they're
that's a
showing you
good
a new
idea.
program, it's literally showing you how to do it.
Yeah,
Especially on a mobile device where it's, you know, report a problem, bang, and it's,
how to report a request for service.
and I've told people, like, I won't fill it out a lot of times for them anymore. I tell them it's all, you know what, your name will never come out of where it's coming from or who it's coming from.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at communicating that through an email blast or something like that. That's probably the best, most effective way to do it.
And maybe our tech person can show us how to do a video on how to do a request for service. And then we could connect the link and put it in email blast, like Councilor Bichetti said. And then, you know, we're educating and we're getting them going.
Yeah.
And we could put it in the newsletter too, once we develop it. That takes time away from staff, doesn't have to do it all the time. Might free up some of your time.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, next is Protective Services, 4.6.1. We have our fire chief here. By all means, come forward, sir.
Evening.
Welcome, Fire Chief Yackel. Good.
All right, good evening. I have, I guess, two reports in front of you. I want to apologize. My initial report, it's got some convoluted information that I would like to update, and I apologize for having this in there. So the first report being, I'd like to have council appoint a new new member to the department. New member in the sense that he's been away from us for a year or two, but he was a previous member. Under the history section, I'll note that it should read our last hiring was November 2021. And at the time, our staffing level rose to 34 members. Since that time, we've lost 7 members with the addition of 2. So our current staffing level is 29 currently today. And with that, I'll also report that on Friday, I've had a phone call with one of my current members, and who's informed me that he will be also stepping down. So we're actually on paper today 29, but I would assume sometime this week we'll be actually down to 28. So that being said, I'd like council to consider the appointment of Mitchell Kubis, who was a previous member of our department for about 7 years. He left the department when he moved outside of the RM and has recently acquired a home and moved back into the RM, and would be a great attribute to the department for him to return. He has all his fire training. He has medical training. Unfortunately, his college paramedics membership lapsed, but he's in the process of having that renewed. He's already started that legwork, and we anticipate within the next week or two he'll be fully reinstated. Any costs associated with that aspect are borne by Mitchell, and then we will take the responsibility moving forward. This is the same process that we did with our last appointment, Chris Rozalowicz, where we brought him on a one-off. He was a pre-trained member, wasn't a returning member, he was new for us, but same process and same requirements for Mitchell as we did with Chris.
Can you account for the attrition? Like, why have you lost 7 members and 1 recently on Friday?
Primarily, like Mitchell's case, we've had some younger members who have grown up, gotten older, and have moved out of the community.
Okay.
We've had some members who life has taken, done some changes. Our newest rash person leaving is he's got some heavier work commitments. It's taking a lot of his time, and he doesn't feel he has the time any longer to put towards the department, and so he's unfortunately stepping off. So those are the 2 biggest factors.
Yeah, it's mostly life situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so essentially we've lost 8 since 2001. So 2 or 3 a year. That's, looking around the province, that's a really, really good number. Only to lose that few a year, and that's been our average for the past many years.
Have you had any more feedback from the requirements that they were trying to impose on you?
I have, and maybe I'll speak to those in a little bit, for sure. So that is my first report, the reappointment of Mitchell Kubis, and I'll gladly take any questions related to that.
So do you like, you don't always have to bring a report to council when you want to hire someone, do you?
Yes.
You do? Okay, I couldn't remember.
An appointment is essentially we select and recommend, and council appoints. That's per our bylaw.
I'm fine.
Okay. Any other
I asked
questions?
my questions.
Continue on.
Okay, so our second report is continuing on with the same theme. This one, West St. Paul Fire Department is like to actively begin a recruitment process for additional new members. As I stated in this report, my numbers are correct. Our last hiring was November of 2021, where we were at 34 members. Since then, we've lost 7 but gained 2. That got us to 29, as we said. We're now down to 28 with a recent indication of a member retiring. Hiring of Mitchell, that would put us back to 29. So we would like to, what we're also noting, since 2021, our call volumes have drastically increased. So in 2021, we had a record number of members of 34. We are going to, as indicated in our report, we are going to solicit hard for members. We are going to advertise in the record. We are going to do numerous email blasts. We're going to have on the municipal social sites, website. Our recruitment is running through our open house, where we're hoping to use that as also a potential recruitment tool for new members. We would potentially, in my report, I stated we could be looking for anywhere between 6 to 10 members, depending on applicable and suitable candidates, them progressing through the process, and we finding them acceptable. As you can see in our call volumes in 2022 and 2023 have been record years and continuing to grow. In 2024 year to date, we are, as of August 6th, we are at 213 calls. You can see in 2023, our record number of calls for us at 342. At this time in last year, we were at 179. So we're already looking at a potential another 20% increase above and beyond our record year of last year. So the municipal growth, changing times, weather, incidents and events are the main factors contributing to our increase in call volume.
So you had did you have a significant event in July? Because this is to the end of July, 20% increase?
This is as of today,
Yeah.
August
right,
6th.
So did you have a significant event in July? Because it really jumped in July.
We had 42 calls in July,
Yeah.
a record number, and it's a wide range of everything. Medical incidents to, I believe it wasn't in July, but in June, we had 4 vehicle fires in a week. Like, just we're getting drastic, big waves and fluctuations. We're also encountering, not only, it used to be a rarity where we would get, be on one call and then clear and then get another one. That's becoming almost a regular occurrence, along with calls at the same time. Right, so we're sending multiple trucks in different directions.
Are you finding that, like, the vehicle fires, are they in a certain area?
No,
They're all
this was
over?
just a real rare week. They're all on the highways, vehicles
All on
being
the
driven
highway.
and
Okay. And my
temperature could be a
question,
factor, yeah.
I have one question for you, which somebody asked me the other day and I couldn't answer, so I'm gonna ask you the question. When do you think you would need full-time staff?
I met with the CAO last month in preparation for these reports. And I think we discussed, I think it's time, for council, and I've had it in our 5-year plan that we look at some consulting work, maybe bringing in some folks, or bringing in someone to kind of do a vast overview, look around the whole capital region, look at outside of Manitoba, at some other rural fire services and what they're experiencing and what their call volumes are, and is the progression, to a full-time chief, and then progression to full-time members, is a progression to full-time members with administration staff. What could that look like? What could a budget impacts be? All that sort of stuff, and start coming up with a really good detailed report.
So you think it's time?
It's time for that work, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because, I believe that this is gonna plateau. Our call volumes are gonna begin to plateau at some point. But this is a 3rd year of potential close to, if not greater than, a 20% increase. And at some point, the system isn't gonna be able to handle it as well.
I agree. The more houses we add to, the more volume we get.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not just houses, it's traffic, too.
It's everything, yes.
Traffic, yeah.
Councilor Campbell?
That was gonna be my question. Just approximately, what do you think your calls are for fire versus medical / accident related?
I would say, and I would estimate at this point, probably our pure medical related versus emergency response for any sort of fire related calls are about 55 to 60% medical at this time, and then the remainder are fire, MVCs, alarms, that sort of stuff. But that being said, we're also experiencing, and as I reported to earlier, and we can touch upon it in a little bit, we are attending far more medical calls now where we're the initial arriving unit. The rural EMS system is not keeping up. Our municipal, or the EMS station located within our RM lost its castle designation, so that means if the paramedics are out in additional calls, there's no one coming into this area to backfill or to stand by in case another call comes in. They just don't have the resources for that. So what ends up happening is this paramedic unit at times, they get drawn away and they're geo-posting in other communities because they need to cover the whole district.
So are on these medical calls where they have to go to the hospital, are your staff accompanying them to the hospital then?
Occasionally, yes,
Yeah.
depending on the severity of the incident, yes.
Okay. And I did forward some questions to you ahead of time through the CAO.
Yep.
Okay.
So any further questions on my information report in regarding to the high rate?
I just want to go back to just your numbers and stuff here, you say with the medical. So the increases we've seen from 22 to 23, when did this ambulance bay lose its castle accreditation?
I believe it was
Right in that time frame?
2023, I
Yeah,
believe.
last year.
Yeah.
So is it not maybe time that, I don't know, council, whatever, bring it up to the higher level of government, that saying, look, you know, this is a number that it's hurting our municipality, not hurting, but it's, you know, with the availability of I'm gonna say volunteer department, it's hurting us at this point, since you put this station here. It's, you know, in the capital region, our numbers have done this. Is it time to start speaking to the next level?
Definitely, but the whole province is experiencing these problems. But our call volumes wouldn't be related to the fact that paramedic unit isn't available in our area. Those call volumes are based on when someone dials 911 for a medical incident and the
Yeah.
severity of that incident. That's the determinant whether we attend or not. It's not whether or not this paramedic unit is in station or not.
But would your team not be called on, because there is nothing else available, so you would respond to it?
No, our response is based on the severity of the call as it's triaged by the dispatchers. So there's a triage level 1 through 7. Medical first response or fire-based EMS would only go to the top 3 priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question on the recruitment, Chief, you said 6 to 12 potential recruits?
6 to 10.
Or 6 to 10, pardon me. Is that enough, given that the RM is growing, and maybe on the next 3 to 5 years, you might have more attrition or retirements? Is that, I'm not sure. Or are you planning to do another recruitment in a couple of years, or?
We definitely could. Normally, we were on a 2-year cycle. Post-COVID, we were, and with some of the medical changes that I'll speak to in a minute, this last group that we hired, we were behind in their training. So we probably should have hired last year, but we were reluctant to do it because we were still kind of playing catch up. I think if we can get back to that 2-year cycle, would help. But again, it's also going to depend on applications and numbers, and if we can get enough suitable applicants. So we're going to push hard. We're going to try to get as much as possible. But
So is our first line of full-time, would that be the fire chief would be full-time? Or would you have members be full-time?
Normal, lots of large communities in Manitoba, seems to be their first step as a fire chief. And then there's only a very, very small handful of departments in Manitoba that are full-time. So outside of Winnipeg, there's only Brandon, Thompson. Portage has a composite department, and the Pinawa nuclear site. Those are the only full-time staff departments in Manitoba.
Fire department staff.
Where you actually have boots, firefighters in stations that can respond. There's a lot of other communities that have full-time chiefs, minus having full-time staff.
And what is the cooperation like with East St. Paul and St. Andrews as far as that goes?
Fantastic. St. Andrews is in our mutual aid district, so we work a lot together, and we seem to work very well together. And then we've East St. Paul is not within our mutual aid district, but we have service agreements or memorandums of understanding that we help each other that way too. So we can call upon either of those departments at any time, along with Stony Mountain, Rosser, and further north, Selkirk.
Good.
So, in your report, you have auto alarms. What is that?
In my monthly reports,
Yes.
automatic alarms. So that's commercial businesses, homes. We're going to start to see more and more of those types of calls, and so we should.
So, is that like false alarms, or?
95% of the time, yes, they turn out to be false alarms. It's, monitored alarms that are activated for whatever reasons. It could be smoke from something, it could be humidity, it could be heat, it could be faulty detector.
So is that something that we should be charging?
I think it's something we should be encouraging, because one of the biggest factors for us to be effective is our response times. And we can't get away from the fact that we are a paid on-call service. We have members at home, at work, away, not in the fire hall. And so that time it takes for us to get to the fire hall and have a suitable number of members to respond is a time we can't eliminate at this point. So the earlier we can get detection, the earlier we can get called, the potential earlier we can make a difference.
Yeah, okay, but I understand what you're saying there, but
A downside to that is false alarms, right? Alarms activated for those reasons I mentioned before. It's something that all departments have to face and deal with. Right now, I'll say that we don't get a lot of frequent locations. I remember when I started in the mid-90s, we used to go weekly to Middle Church Home. Weekly. That they've upgraded all their systems, they've gotten much better with it. Now we're lucky we may only go one or two, maybe 3 times a year.
And a lot of the newer homes also have, like, I know when I installed my burglar alarm, it also has the fire with it.
Correct.
So if I have a fire, I just hit the fire button,
Right.
and it goes right to the fire department.
yeah, but that's not a false alarm, though.
No, that's not a
alarm is
false
when you get
alarm, but
there
if
and-
if my smoke detector, I'm at home, my smoke detectors start going off, then it's gonna go straight to the fire department too. So the only time that it would be is if you're cooking something and you got smoke in there and you didn't clear the smoke, that might go off and then go to the fire department.
Well, I know,
That's
but
right.
isn't
Yeah,
that?
by accident.
Isn't that a false alarm, though?
But, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
also, in my business with the power failures, the power surges and spikes that we get here in West St. Paul,
Yeah.
I've had my alarm company call me twice saying, there's been a fire reported. Well, no, we just had power failures and it's back on. So really, it's technology glitches. I
Yeah,
think that's what
yeah.
probably a lot of them are. And they're activated with the hot weather and humidity that we've had. That changes a lot of it too. It's glitches with technology. That's what I think a lot of it is.
It's a good practice for response time.
It is, and we've built in some, like if we get reports that, the alarm company gets an update from the homeowners that there's appears to be false, or that they're on site and, there doesn't appear to be a fire, we downgrade our response. We only send one apparatus.
Oh, there you
And
go.
we just ensure that, what's
Everything's okay.
reported is correct, and we clear that incident. We're doing what we can to mitigate it, and I'll say that we're not really inundated with, that's not really where, we're not being overwhelmed by those types of calls at this point in time. It is, you gotta take some of the good with the good and the bad together, and I'd hate to discourage that or start looking at fees or service for things like that. If we were getting nuisance alarms, constantly, like we did back in the 90s. And there ended up becoming, there was a pursuant for fees for service with that one location. Then I would obviously bring that forward to the CEO and yourselves, but we're not there. We don't have, it's not the same people that we're attending over and over and over.
Oh, so none of these are repeat offenders?
Not really,
Okay.
no. We might get one or two we did have, we went one or twice, 2 or 3 times 1 week to a certain school. They were doing construction. They finally got their contractors online to take the alarm systems offline while the work was going on. So yeah, in a couple days we went there 2 or 3 times, but then that got mitigated, and we haven't been back since.
Okay. Okay, anyone else have any questions?
Oh,
Go ahead, Councilor
Yes.
Campbell.
I think we all have a question. The turnout dryer. If you can give us an
Dryer.
update on that, please.
Right, so just clear, you got my information report. We're gonna begin our hiring process in August 12th, and it's gonna run to September 20th. And then we're looking for those. Great. Turnout gear dryer, yes. Got the information, got the, sorry, I've never had any direction or ever used the Canoe. So I got the information from the CEO. We are looking into it. We've got some comparisons, and we'll get it put through and see how it comes back. So nothing's been purchased at this point, and we'll follow through on that process and see where the numbers fall.
You already have 2 though, right? 2 prices?
Yes,
So you're just waiting for this 3rd one from Canoe?
correct.
And we have reached out to them? Or-
I have the information. I have not reached out to them. I was on holidays, and
Sure.
yeah, so it's gonna happen this month.
So your hiring dates were from August 12th to September 20th? Is that what you
Correct,
said?
that's when our recruitment process will run.
Okay,
And then you can expect to see me back early October with another recommendation, hopefully a long list of recommended members to appoint to the department.
okay.
Just one quick
Go
question.
on.
Do you have a date for your open house that you usually do in?
Yep,
in
it's,
September?
I believe it'll be in my July report. It is September 8th,
Okay.
What's that for, sorry?
our annual open house.
Oh, annual, all right.
Perfect.
Answering Councillor Cliver's questions, we had a significant fire in River's Edge last month. That was, came in during the day, during the week, so I'll be honest, those can be a struggle for us to have, a good complement of members attend, especially initially. But we had a decent amount arrive initially. We got some support from St. Andrews and Stony Mountain. So St. Andrews provided 2 additional water tankers, and Stony Mountain had provided 1 additional water tanker. That fire was unfortunate. It turned out to be a complete loss of a structure, a home. Fire was deemed to be accidental by the Office of the Fire Commissioner, the investigator that attended. It appears that it started within the crawl space of the structure and had rapid growth and a stranglehold of that structure before it was even noticed by anyone else, before even 911 was called. By the time it was noticed, it was already venting through the windows of the main floor and through the roof. So we were, our initial incident commander's primary goal when he first arrived was to protect the structure to the south, which we were successful in doing. And unfortunately, we lost the primary structure that was involved in fire. The fire load, or the initial fire volume upon arrival of our first truck was immense. We could not make entry to the interior due to the amount of fire. And again, our priority was, at that point, protecting the neighboring structure.
Yeah, there was a lot, I drove by, there was a lot of trucks there.
Yes.
I didn't get close to it, I didn't wanna get in the way either, so.
Yes,
But it's a shame that it was lost, but these things happen, right?
they do.
And,
Unfortunately.
you had 4 water tanks there, water tankers. right?
Actually, we had 5. We had 2 of our own, 2
5.
from St. Andrews and 1 from Stony Mountain.
Yeah, so there was enough water there.
correct. We never at any time ran out of water. We were never had to suspend firefighting activities due to no water. So we definitely having the hydrants in Rivercrest and River Springs very close aided in a quick turnaround and us to be able to keep that and maintain that water supply throughout that entire incident.
What was the response time getting there? Was it about 15 minutes?
I don't have that number, but it was between 13 to 15, I believe, correct?
Yeah, that's
So that's
pretty
from the
fast.
initial 911 call,
Yeah.
from when our pagers are activated, to the actual truck arriving in River's Edge.
It's pretty fast for a volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
Well done.
I believe your second question was related to the bylaw.
Probably, I can't remember now, so.
So with the-
refresh my memory.
Within our bylaw, when it comes to staffing, we don't have a maximum number of members,
Okay.
but we have a minimum of 20. So it might also be time to, this bylaw hasn't been looked at since, I believe, 2012, looks like our last update. So it might need, it's time to maybe have a look, and then we could potentially address those minimum numbers. I like the idea of having a minimum versus a maximum. Just, if we need to hire more due to growth, we don't have to go and address the whole bylaw but having a minimum, keeps both the department and council together in the fact that, we need to keep this, at least a minimum amount of staffing.
What would you recommend as a minimum?
Well, currently it's 20. I would maybe think that maybe it needs to be moved up to 25 or something. Again, this is just minimum
Yeah, I know.
staffing levels,
Yeah.
and then gives us the ability to grow past that.
Yeah, good idea.
I do want to touch on, we'll come back and talk about the medical first response. I did want to add, we're excited to also, we had one of our members, so the Manitoba Fire Association Fire Chiefs puts out a, for the last 2 years, puts out a open draw for any firefighter in Manitoba to be selected to attend with the Manitoba Association of Fire Chiefs to Ottawa for their first responder days, whatever the Ottawa hosts, the MPs, the legislative body hosts all the fire chiefs from across Canada. So we had one of our members that was selected. You have to do an application process, you have to do a small essay, and he's been selected to attend. This cost for this is covered by the Manitoba Association of Fire Chiefs, and he's one of four of numerous applicants in Manitoba. He was chosen and he's going to be attending, and so it's kind of a nice little thing for our department. He'll be representing our department in Ottawa.
And who is that?
His name is Brett Khaled. So we encouraged our regular members to attend. We didn't encourage any officers to apply.
Yeah.
So he's a grassroots guy. He's been with us for about 5 or 6 years. Very diligent, very dedicated to the department, and I think he'll represent us really, really well. So that's coming up in September.
Great.
So we'll get some. We'll get him to get a few pictures or something. Maybe something we can add into the newsletter or something once he returns. So we're happy. I did come and speak to council a while ago about the changes to the College of Paramedics and how it's affected our training abilities with our medical training and our medical program. I'm happy to report that, and you guys might have seen some of it, that the provincial government, through Shared Health, through a working group with the Manitoba Association of Fire Chiefs, we were able to get some legislation change now that's allowing or will permit advanced first aid training as a means to respond to medical incidents within communities. In the past, you had to be trained to the entry-level paramedic or first responder level, which was at the time about 120 to 140 hours of training. College of Paramedics decided that they needed to increase that, so it's become, that training is now over 300 hours, making it nearly impossible for small rural fire departments to train members. That would take a year or two, on weekends and evenings to get to that many hours to get them trained. So having this change now allows medical or advanced first aid training, which is about 80 hours. So we're excited about that. And we can get some of our new members, once that legislation, or once the legislation's been changed, now they can work out a few little fine details. And we can now get some of our newest members, back from 2021 when we hired, we can get them trained and get them responding.
That's really great news for you guys.
It's great news, but I will caution it a little bit where that training level being advanced first aid is a decrease in what we currently provide today.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to, I don't wanna lose what we have, but we're gonna have to manage and see how this progresses. But at least they can gets them out and responding, and at least we'll be able to maintain that service level if worst case scenario.
Well, you could always train to the level that you have been training to.
We
you
could,
not?
it's difficult for individuals to commit to that level
Yeah,
of training.
no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, but you have some paramedics on staff as fire?
We do have one rural paramedic and one City of Winnipeg paramedic, and then we have a couple of firefighter paramedics that are city firemen and paramedics. They ride the fire trucks as firefighter paramedic.
So those firefighter paramedics, are they in that College of Paramedics, or they're not?
They are, like everyone else on the department currently, yes.
So if we have those individuals on staff, we still have the trained first aiders actually, as opposed to the advanced first aid.
Correct. So their training level is far more advanced than the
Yeah.
advanced first aid. But again, they can only work to a first responder training level. So they might have, so especially paramedics, like the two individuals that we have that ride ambulances, either rural or City of Winnipeg, they have some advanced skill sets. They can do IVs, they can do advanced airways, they can potentially give some medications at their day job. When they're responding with West St. Paul Fire Department in a medical first responder role, they can only work to that medical first responder level. We're getting into,
Even though they're capable of doing.
even though they're capable of doing more, they can't do those more skills when they're wearing our hat,
Is that
unfortunately.
because of insurance problems, or?
It's because of bureaucratic red tape, in my opinion.
Okay, all right.
The medical field is very, very protective of, and rightfully so, they need to be in certain aspects, but they're very, very protective of those skill sets and levels and where they can be used, because there needs to be oversight, there needs to be ensuring that the equipment that's being used is maintained appropriately. So it makes sense, but at times it doesn't.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So.
Yeah.
So this affects all the rural municipalities?
Correct, so there could be, so our neighboring departments that, St. Andrews, East St. Paul, that provide the service, this is, affects them. But it could also, areas that don't have a service could now potentially come online and don't have to do that 300 hours per member. They could do a 70, 80 hour course per member, not be affiliated with the College of Paramedics, and do an advanced first aid response within their community. So it's a good change. I was happy to work on the working group with the fire chiefs of Manitoba to get this change, and we'll see where it continues and where it grows, but I think it's definitely a good step forward.
It's just,
Great.
but it's a shame that we have these individuals classified paramedics, and we can't utilize them because we're in West St. Paul, right?
Yes.
I mean, I would have thought that it would have been a little more, like, I understand the 80-hour first aiders, like, I understand that part, but,
Yep.
if you have someone with that skill set, you should be able to recognize that skill set no matter where they are,
I agree,
right?
but
Yeah,
That's weird.
we're in a,
Certification follows the individual. It should.
yeah.
And that's where it used to be region by region, so they've got to that, to where that certification does follow, except when it comes to medical first response.
That's weird. So if paramedic was an actual medical doctor, they couldn't perform medical services because they're not, that makes no sense.
Now you're crossing the lines of colleges, and yes, it gets very
Yeah,
convoluted
Wow.
yeah.
quickly.
Interesting.
Got any?
Well, they still have a good knowledge base.
They do,
Yeah.
So.
yep. And they're a great resource for some of our younger responders, right? They
Yes.
can definitely provide some oversight. The only other, in my report and in my past reports, I've stated that we've had a stalling problem with one of our vehicles, our squad unit. It's been giving us lots of headaches the last 6 months to a year. We've had it serviced with our service provider. We've had it to dealerships to have it looked at. No one can seem to get a handle on it. We had a third party come in and put a flight recorder system on it, basically monitoring the vehicle while it's in operation, and then if it experiences an issue, we're able to hit a button and it records the last 20 or 30 seconds of the vehicle computer. So we think we've got a diagnosis now, so hopefully we're on the mend for that, and we can get that problem rectified.
Which vehicles, that's right, it's a Ford truck?
Correct. It's our 3/4 ton, half ton that we use for our medical response. Luckily, the issues have been occurring not while responding, but while returning back to the home. It's been a very
Okay.
bizarre issue.
Hmm.
But hopefully we've got a diagnosis now because we've experienced it. We've been able to record the data, and they've looked at the data, and now they've come up with the diagnosis. So that was all I have in notes.
So I have some, I was gonna
Okay.
ask you, the council program that they have, the ambulance thing was a council station?
Correct.
So my understanding is they're doing away with those council stations. Is my understanding right on it, or?
They're doing away with, so what's the biggest determinant is rural EMS, and, you know, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Rural EMS is operating at about a 30 to 35% vacancy rate.
Yeah.
So staff vacancies, which now turns into vehicle vacancies. So in our region, I believe, so the Interlake Eastern Regional Health Authority, so from West St. Paul goes all the way north, Saugeen, how far, way past that. Might go up to Riverton, it's a massive area. They should have potentially 20 trucks on duty. That's a full complement. Well, at times they're lucky if they can, especially weekends, they could be down as low as 10. So if these units or this unit, there's 2 during the day and 1 in the evening, if that evening unit is out at a call, they don't have the resources to bring in another unit, say from Selkirk or Stonewall or wherever. They're just spread way too thin, so they gotta make sure they can cover the whole region. So Selkirk and Stonewall, I believe, are still considered castle stations, and there might be a station up north somewhere. So a lot of times, this unit will get drawn up into Selkirk, into Stonewall, into Gimli, or even up Highway 6 somewhere, because they need to sort of geographically cover their whole response area. The good thing with that, with the new dispatching system, is regardless of units in the region, if there's a unit passing by on the perimeter, or a unit that's, say, from St. Pierre, Manitoba, that's in the city because they brought a patient in and they're available, they could potentially get sent this way. But we're getting numerous incidents where we're responding with a paramedic unit from the Arm-McDonald, Ile-des-Chênes, Niverville, St. Pierre, Oakbank, Stonewall, just because of the vacancies and their call volumes. They're experiencing the same thing. Right?
There was also some cuts, from my understanding, because I know a paramedic on Sag King said 3 full-time positions were cut to 1.
I think in Saugeen itself, yes,
Yeah.
but not within the region.
Yeah,
There's-
but within Sag King, so I mean, those calls now,
are being answered by
Other people.
these regional units,
Yes.
correct?
yeah.
So the new communication system is going digital?
No, not
Not yet?
We'd love for it to get better, and we're even experiencing, all medical first response services are experiencing issues with our dispatching service that they're overwhelmed as well, right? Their call volume, their staffing levels aren't meeting the needs. We're happy that we worked on getting a legislation change allowing for advanced first aid. I think our next goal now is to put some pressure on the government to see if we can get their dispatching centers staffed, and because there's at times where we can't even potentially get a hold of them, right, because they're so busy.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks for coming down, your time, answering the
you.
questions, informing us.
Take 2 minutes just to fill up.
You want to take a break?
Just 2 minutes
Two
just to
minutes?
fill up the water. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so next is 4.8, Whistler Hollow Playground Safety-Based Options. I'll open it up to CAO.
Yeah, okay, you'll recall that we had, we'd been asked to go away and take a look at, rubberized, poured rubberized base for the, play structure at Whistler Hollow. We did that and, came back with an estimate for a change order from Blue Imp, with an approximate cost of, $74,496, minus the credit for pea gravel of $23,900. So sort of an overall net increase of approximately $50,000 for the rubberization. Council had asked to table a decision on this matter and requested administration to go away and come back with some costing of perhaps what it might cost going to a third party, or if Blue Imp could perhaps sharpen their pencil on the poured in place rubberization. So we did that, and what Blue Imp came back with was they did sharpen their pencil, and they as part of that they proposed reducing the size of the area of the mat as well, so that instead of being a large rectangle, it was more contoured to the geometry of the play structure itself. So the new footprint is attached into the agenda documents there, and you can see that it is no longer rectangular. It sort of is a polygon, multi-sided polygon that kind of works itself around the play structure itself. The revised costing with the smaller mat area in itself is was closer to $163,500, which was representative of a smaller or a reduced cost of about $19,000. So now the conversion or the upgrade from poured rubberized mat from pea gravel was something closer to the order of $30,000. We asked Blue Imp if they could do anything else, perhaps bring it closer to the budget amount of $150,000. And what they had suggested is one option would be to switch the climbing boulder with a rope cage climbing structure next to the play structure itself. So there's some new drawings of the proposed play structure that shows what it would look like with a rope cage, as opposed to the previous document, which had like a large boulder for a climbing structure. So there's a couple options to reduce that price with Blue Imp. The first is to look at sort of their cost reductions and the change in the geographic footprint of the poured rubber base, and the second is to replace the climbing boulder with a rope cage. If we want to go to 163, or as opposed to going to $152,000. We also went out and got some costing options for some third-party providers. We spoke to three. We spoke to Prairie Rubber Paving and got a quote from them. they indicated depending on all sorts of things, you know, whether you wanted different coloring and on the rubberization, whether it was protective of a 4-foot fall or an 8-foot fall, they would want to work with the plate structure contractor to get a better sense of what it would be. But overall, the quote would be anywhere from an additional $36,000 to an additional $54,000, which, when you look at what the net increase, the initial net increase proposed by Blue Imp is not that far out of the costing range that Prairie Rubber had suggested. We also spoke with Valley West Landscaping. They indicated that moving to a rubberized mat base would cost somewhere in the area of $73,000. So in fact, it was a higher incremental cost than had been initially proposed by Blue Imp. Never mind the revised proposed costing for Blue Imp. We also reached out to J.D. Penner and did not hear back. So I think the short story is that the costing provided by Blue Imp initially, although perhaps a little on the high side and perhaps higher than expected, was not out of market. And some of the proposed changes by them to bring the overall cost of the structure down certainly brings the value of the rubberization well within sort of competitive pricing elsewhere.
Councillor Campbell?
So, I know we can't make decisions here, but I know most people on council, I think when we talked before, one of the main reasons I liked the Blue Imp one was the rock climbing section, so I would be 100% against changing that.
Yep.
And then I would like to know, I think we all would, square footage of what it was, like the design versus what it is now, so that we can see how much of a reduction in pricing it is from what it was to what it is.
Yeah, I could crunch that math, a little bit of geometry, but I could crunch that math for you.
Okay.
Councillor Clyburn?
So, Mr. CEO, when I look at, there's an attachment and there's 5 pages. And so the first page is the Blue Ink code quote. And then the second page, there's a diagram, there's a picture, and then the third page, there's a picture. So the first page looks like it has the swings in it. And that was the original rubber mount?
Let me
It's
guess.
a site area plan.
Councillor Clyburn, which document are you talking about?
And I'm trying to figure out which one I have too. It says site area plan.
It's got the
I
drawings
think
in it,
maybe
right?
it's the first clip. No, it's not.
It's 5 pages?
It
It's
may
this
be
last
the
one.
revised
Last-
price
the
schedule,
revised-
revised price
revised.
schedule?
Okay, okay.
The very last one?
Yeah, the very last one.
Okay.
So there's 5 pages. So when I look at page 2, there's there's swings.
Yep.
Is that the original one?
No,
That's the
this is
change.
this is the change. As you see towards the left of it, there's that rope cage,
Okay,
and that replaces the where there used to be a climbing rock there, a climbing boulder. And,
Okay,
And so if you
so-
make that change, it'll bring the price down from 163,000 to closer to the budget of 163,509, brings it down to closer to the budget amount of, I believe it was 151, something in that order,
so all it is just a reverse view then?
152.
On the page 3?
Yes,
the
precisely.
swings would be on the
Yes.
left side?
Yes, exactly.
It's still continuing on?
So it reduces, changing out the boulder reduces the cost by approximately $11,000, from 163,500 to about 152. But that's, I'm certainly not advocating for that, but we were looking for options to bring the project down closer to the budget amount. And that is one alternative.
And what was there before? A rock climbing wall?
Yeah, it was a boulder, there's a,
It looked really good.
yeah, there's a boulder to climb to access that higher.
Like a rock?
Yeah, it's kind of like a kind of a stepped rock
Brothers
looking,
Rock.
kind of stepped
Like a UTV
rock
truck,
looking.
but it's smaller.
I don't know, like, I don't mind the cage.
Counselor Kleiber, can you see it from there?
Oh, there, okay.
This whole rock area is
Oh.
gone. Which is kind of what made it different than every other one. That's what I looked at anyway. Can you see
Yeah, I
it?
don't mind either one of them.
So,
Yeah,
either way, if we want to proceed with the rubberized, poured rubberized, base, I think realistically, there's sort of three options in front of us. The first being the poured rubberized base with the reduced footprint and the rope cage for 152. There's the rubberized, the reduced rubberized base with the climbing rock for 163, or the full rectangular rubberized base with the rock for 160 or 183.
And the original one was what total with the pea gravel? What?
131.
What was the second last one again?
Second last one was rubberized base, full rectangle with the climbing rock for 183.
And the one before that, though? Was it
Rubberized base with the reduced,
Cage?
with the reduced
No, the rock.
size of footprint. It's no longer rectangular, it's angular around the sort of the perimeter of the play structure, and a rock, climbing rock for 163.
Okay. So is it, do we want a rock or a cage?
It's,
Basically,
what
that's
do
what
you
it comes
want?
down to. Do you want a rock or a
Overall.
cage?
Do you want rubberization? Do you want a rock? Do you want a cage? Do you want a full rectangular footprint, or footprint that is more contoured to the geometry of the structure?
Is there two different type of rubberized components? One was poured and one was loose?
Yes, I wouldn't recommend the rubber crumb, and we've never really talked about that. What that is that's almost like little chunks of rubber, and
Okay.
I think what we want is a poured in place map. A rubber crumb really wouldn't provide any additional accessibility features,
Yeah, okay.
right? It's a soft landing surface, but it doesn't provide the firmness for strollers
Yeah, okay.
or any other wheeled accessible devices. So we did get a quote for that. That was option one initially, but we really haven't presented that because it doesn't really meet the intent.
I would certainly advocate for the rubber surface to meet some new accessibility features, or to provide accessibility features.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
but-
need the rubber mat, I think. That's
Yeah.
clear. It's just what options are we gonna go with?
Councilor Campbell?
Well, I think, we kind of, this wasn't the low bid, we chose this one, I think, because of the aesthetics and a big part of the aesthetics. Like, yeah, another one had a climbing rock, but it wasn't as nice, as big. I think the climbing rock was a large portion of my decision of going with this one. So if we're going away from the climbing rock, then I say we have to look, start from scratch and look at them all over again, really.
We've made the award.
Yeah, I know,
We're not doing that.
but I'm just saying, if they're, all of a sudden they're throwing a change order at us for something that we didn't ask for them to change, right? Then the big portion, like, if we went back and watched the video, a big portion where I said and everybody else thought it was nicer because of that portion. So they're changing the main thing that I liked about their proposal.
Yeah, we could ask them to look at something else, but like, I agree and understand what you're saying. I just said, what could you do to get this down to budget? And that's what they came back with.
163.
So from what I can see then, you're just basically cutting the corners,
Yes,
right?
yeah, and they've sort of sketched out what looks like a, for lack of a better word, sort of a falling perimeter. And
Yeah.
the idea being that it provides what they feel is a safe perimeter around the structure to, by cutting the corners. And so I think probably reducing the geometry or the footprint of the rubberized mat, I mean, that brings the cost down by close to $20,000 there. In my mind, that's a smart move.
I'm okay with that. If you want your rock, put the rock there.
And then,
reduce the
and if
footprint,
you wanna
you're good
stay
to
with
go.
the rock, you'd be at 163,500. So you'd be looking at increasing budget by,
13,000.
13,500, 14, maybe call 15,000 to have a little bit of breathing room.
Oh, our CFO is putting her hand up. She's got something to say about it.
So, as per the capital plan that was approved during budget, it is the Whistler Hollow playground equipment and landscaping. You have now chosen to go with, structure approximately, we'll say 150.
This includes landscaping,
Does that include landscaping of the entire park ground though?
yes.
Okay. You do have a cost so far that has been expensed of $490 for, the survey of the ground. So keep that in mind, you will need a little more than
Yeah,
the 163.
We would have to pass a resolution.
you know, we might pass for a budget increase of $20,000 to one side.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure all the costs were covered before
Okay.
a decision.
It would be a capital outlay anyways, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It can come from the same reserve, the green space reserve.
Yep, okay.
So how long does these mats, rubberized mats last? Do they last 10
Comes-
years, 15 years, 20 years?
I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard it comes with a 1-year warranty. I've heard mixed reviews. Some saying they stand up quite well. Some saying that you know, maybe 7 to 10 years. Some saying maybe 20. I think kind of mixed reviews. I don't have a lot of experience with them. I have no experience with them.
Well, I think the thing is, we're looking at accessibility, right? That's part of the issue. And, you know, maybe this is the first one in West St. Paul that we experiment with and see how it does. Because we don't have any of that. I can just tell you that 1/4 down or 3/4 down doesn't work with the wheelchair. It doesn't work with the stroller. It doesn't work with anything. And if we want people to use a $180,000 play structure, let's make it accessible. If we have to do some maintenance, that's part of park maintenance.
Well, 180,000, 50% of it is the rubberized mat,
Or 160,000, whatever.
right? I mean, it's only a $80,000 play structure, and we're putting rubberized matting in there for equal amount of cost. That's what I see. Like, I understand why we're asking for it, but I just see the cost of the matting is as much as the play structure. So,
That's what I'm looking at, is 50% of the
Well,
cost
the
of
play
whole
structure's
thing.
83 and the
Yeah.
matting is 64. But you would still be paying 25 for gravel. So keep that in mind,
yeah,
right? So you're still gonna be paying $25,000 for gravel plus GST. And you're still gonna be paying topsoil on the sod. So you're increasing it by $25,000 from the original. 25 or 30?
no, you're paying
30.
25,000, you're paying
20, probably another 30 from the original bid.
30,000.
32-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're getting a permanent base rather than something that you have to do maintenance on every year. You're gonna have to do maintenance on it every year if you put gravel down.
I'm not a fan of gravel, you know, I've gone to lots of these playgrounds with my kid,
Yeah.
they're dirty, they're, you know, they're
They're
not, you know, even for adults or kids, they're not the best to walk through. You're walking through 6 inches of pea gravel. I think this would be a good opportunity for, as Councillor Pactican indicated, for us to try out the accessibility area. I know it is above budget, but when are we gonna have another opportunity to do a pilot project kind of like this?
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay anyways for the gravel. You're paying for it. So it's not as if there is an increase, and we knew there would be an increase to do a more permanent base. And I think it's gone down reasonably. It was 55,000 originally. right?
Well, it was net, about 50,000.
Yeah.
The rubberization was about 74,000, and then there was a $23,000 or $24,000 credit for the pea gravel. So it was a net increase of about 50.
Yeah.
Do we know what kind of maintenance this rubber needs on a yearly basis? I'm just curious what would be spending per year.
Probably done.
Yeah, or nothing for the first 3 years.
Probably nothing for the first little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
So we have a resolution with some blank spaces. Maybe we can plunk in some numbers and discuss it.
So what ideally we would do is, we'd come forward with a resolution, with a change order and recommending a change of budget. And we'd add the report as an addendum for Thursday's council meeting. So you'd see an addendum come out with the finalized report. I think, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like the sentiment is the $163,000 option of a reduced footprint and keeping the boulder.
Yeah, keep the rough,
I'm
163.
comfortable
I'm
with
good with
that.
that.
So we could, if we could bring a report forward with a recommended change order as an addendum for Thursday, and council can deliberate at that point.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and it, you know, presumably if the base works quite well, that should be the standard going forward for any developments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and subject to change based on our experience.
Yep. We'll have to experience it.
Definitely, we'll definitely evaluate it
Yeah,
moving forward.
yeah, you know, we may have some tweaks. We may find that we needed it bigger, we may find we needed it smaller, right? But
Yeah.
it's, I think it's a good first try.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay.
So, okay, that's good. So next on the agenda is 5.1, West St. Paul Trails Committee Terms of Reference.
Yes, this report deals with recommending the sort of changes around the terms of reference for the West St. Paul Trails Committee. Right now, there's 5 committees on the West St. Paul Trails Committee. The report recommends, at the request of the Trails Committee, the report is recommending the addition of an additional member to a total of 6 members, and having a condition that no more than 4 committee members of the public will reside from either the east or the west side of Main Street, so that you get sort of some more balanced representation throughout the community. And the final recommendation is that 6th or new Trails Committee member be Murray Lachinsky, and he be appointed to the Trails Committee as well.
Just a question, why do they have to be appointed? Why can't they just be at the committee meeting? Mr. Lashinsky was at the last committee meeting I was at, he wasn't appointed.
Greg Lachinsky or Murray?
Murray.
This is Murray.
No,
Murray.
this was Murray. Murray was at the last committee meeting I was at,
Oh,
and he wasn't appointed, he was there. Is there a reason why we have to appoint them? Isn't there, why can't you just say the committee's comprised of 5
Well,
people?
I think generally speaking, if you want to formalize sort of a committee to sort of have representation, voting representation, if a committee isn't structured with a regular membership, folks will come and go, and the consistency of the committee itself might vary over time. So I think the idea is to have appointees, and whether or not other people attend out of interest, I guess, is their prerogative and the committee's prerogative if they wish to entertain that.
Okay,
I just think that a committee is a committee, it shouldn't be appointed. It should be X number of people on the committee, maximum or whatever, and then that's it. Or minimum, do a minimum of, let's say you can't get 6 people, Now what?
It's a maximum number of 6 members. That's what's been recommended.
Well,
A maximum number
So
of
you,
6.
so what you're saying is, if a 7th person attends, whoa, we gotta appoint a 7th person?
No,
Change
that,
it
that,
again?
that person wouldn't be a committee member, right? If somebody else from the public, if for some reason the meeting is open to the public and people from the public attend, those people are observers.
Yeah, so that's why I'm wondering, why are we increasing it? What powers are they retaining if we appoint another person? Why can't they just not attend? Like, what is the reasoning behind now increasing it suddenly?
We had a request from the Trails Committee asking if they could add another member, and they had asked if Murray could be appointed, and so we thought we'd bring the recommendation forward to council and see how council felt about it.
Okay, I don't understand why we have to increase it. These people are all attending anyways. And there is no power behind being a committee member. We've changed the terms of reference so they're dealing with the
Rec director.
rec director, so I don't understand. Are we gonna keep, if they want another person, are we gonna keep changing the terms of reference? Until, because they've made a request, do we just keep adding on more and more and more? Or do we pick a number and just say that's it?
Well, I think the intent would, I mean, it has been at 5 for some time now. I think the intent would be to make the change as requested. I think the committee's perspective is that Murray has a lot to contribute and would be helpful for the committee, and so they were hoping to make him a formal member of the Trails Committee. So the idea would be make the change as requested and recommended by Trails Committee, satisfy their request, and certainly maintain that maximum of 6 for the foreseeable future. Why not?
I just don't understand, like, if you have 5 and you have to have a vote, you're gonna have a vote, and you're gonna have a split, right? If you have 6, are you gonna have the same kind of vote? That's one thing, but I don't know if there's even any voting going on here. I just don't understand why, if you're a member of the Trails Committee, you have to be appointed, and we have to change terms of reference every time they want a new member. Why wouldn't their terms of reference just see whoever wants to be part of the committee can be part of the committee? Why do we have to appoint people? That's my question. Like, whoever wants to be part of the Trails Committee should be part of the Trails Committee. And certain members can be voting members. Like, why preclude anybody from it?
I think the MLO has a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to add that the Trails Committee is a standing committee of council, and that's why we appoint members.
And what does that mean? It's a standing committee of council.
Well, the committee does report to council, and
Okay.
decisions are made from
Well,
recommendations.
didn't the rec committee, wasn't the rec committee also a committee that reported to council?
Yes,
Did you have maximum members there?
yes.
How many maximum members were there?
I don't recall, but I know the last number of years we weren't meeting the minimums at all. We had a number of vacant positions.
Oh, whatever.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? No? Okay, so next we move down to number 7, question period. Any questions? By all means, come forward.
I've got questions about 2 items on the agenda, and one was the Trails Committee, the terms of reference, so I'll start with that. And it was 6.2 of the terms of reference. The committee will meet at least 2 times per year, provide a minimum notice, location, time, agenda, members of the committee, 2 members of the committee, including the rec director. So, as Ms. Shaw pointed out, this is a standing committee of council, and every meeting of a council or a council committee must be conducted in public according to the Municipal Act. So there's no provision in this terms of reference for somebody on the committee to get a hold of administration so that there can be an announcement or an email blast so that the community is informed that there is a meeting taking place and that they can attend, because it is the public's right to be at meetings, to observe if they wish. Everyone has a right to be present at a meeting of a council or a council committee, unless they get kicked out for rowdiness or whatever.
And I think to my point, and that's kind of my point, is if you're appointing people and then a public person comes in to watch the meeting, are they allowed to speak? There's my issue. Go ahead.
But my issue is the public needs to be informed that the meeting is going on, and whether or not they choose to go, that's their prerogative.
Excuse me, can I just, when we had the rec committee, we had our rec director who would inform administration of when the meetings were, and they would be put up that way.
Yeah,
So
well,
with having the rec director on there, that would be the administrative link to publicizing it.
would there, sure.
Okay, there's
but-
nothing written, I see what you're getting at, there's nothing in the bylaws stating that, but
That's right, because things change, and it might be somebody else's duty at some other point in time, and then the committee changes. If you have it in the terms of reference, it's there.
so if we're opening the terms of reference, if we end up opening it for this,
Well, it's open anyways for this.
well, we might as well add a line in there that all meetings must be advertised and open to the public.
Yeah.
Right.
A one-liner, right?
We could add similar wording that was used in the accessibility committee in terms of reference.
Okay,
Council's
whatever,
level.
yeah, I'm not sure what the wording was there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, under meetings, under 6.0, then you could put something in 6.0 where it talks about meetings, that the public will be informed of the meetings under 6.1, and they will be advertised so that the public can attend the meetings. And that goes to my point, Mr. CAO, is if you're only appointing 6 people and other people want to come to that meeting, will they not be allowed to talk during that meeting, even if they have great ideas? So it's like, no, only these 6 people, what are those 6 people doing then? Are they only the ones that will contribute to the Trails of West St. Paul, and even though we open up the public can't contribute?
Councillor Clyber, I'd like to comment to what you said. We should put that, they have an open, at the end of every meeting, it's an open question period, comment period for whoever's attending that meeting, because they're attending it because they have ideas or they have
They wanna get
concerns
feedback.
with what is going on.
Yeah.
Like a round table?
No, just at the end, they'll have their,
Well, at the end of the round table.
like an open forum.
And I don't think the committee would have an issue with that. I think they would welcome that.
Okay, so that's something we can add. Okay, okay.
The next question I have was about item 4.4.6 is the miscellaneous, came from the miscellaneous correspondence for, so my question, one of them is council provided with copies of all current policies at the beginning of the elected term? And when policies are amended, are council members provided with the amended policies? That was one of them.
Yes, short answer, yes. Yes, we are provided with the policies. And whenever we do an amendment, we're provided with the old policy and the new policy.
Yeah, that's good. That's a positive change then.
Yeah.
Now, the report mentioned removing a clause requesting an item from miscellaneous correspondence to be brought to a future council meeting. The process is provided for in the procedure bylaw. What is the number of the most recent version of the procedures bylaw? That's the question. And where in the bylaw is the process requesting where an item can be brought to a future council meeting? It's that particular bylaw is still not on the website. So when I'm asking this, because I can't look at it, I've got my copy, but I don't know if that's the most recent one.
That is the most recent one.
Well, then I'm
This is
still
like-
asking where in that one then?
So I'm just gonna ask our MLO, I think in the procedural bylaw, it would be if we're tabling something to a future meeting.
I'm just looking quickly to see if I can find the exact clause. I believe it's under agenda items in the procedural bylaw.
Yeah.
The current bylaw is 2021-08.
Yeah.
This speaks to items to be placed on the agenda, how many hours notice must be received, draft agendas, how determining if it's an appropriate or not appropriate to be an agenda item, etc. So additions and requests to the agenda is absolutely addressed in the procedural bylaw.
Okay. And when will the procedures bylaw be put on the website? That's the final question.
I would actually like to review the procedural bylaw as a council, as well as the organizational bylaw. Those are two that we should review once during our term. We haven't done it yet.
Well, technically, we review it during council orientation following election, but at any time, council can do a further review and update your bylaws.
So that's still up in the air, is that what I'm hearing, as to when that will happen? Formerly?
I've asked for it to happen. We've been inundated with so much stuff on our council, but
I can
but-
see, yeah.
But I'll request it again formally right now to our mayor that we should review that procedural bylaw. There's some changes that
Well,
need to be made.
a couple of councils back, I think 3, at the time, the procedures bylaw said actually you have to review it at the first meeting of council.
Yeah, I think that
And
we
we
do a
do-
quick
and we
review,
do, as
but.
Ms. Shaw said.
But we do need to make changes. And
Well,
I
this
know
is
it's
it.
been kind of sitting there, we've been trying to get to it, and we've just been inundated, so I think we are gonna get to it.
So there's no point in putting up the current bylaw, there's no point.
Because
in
we're
putting
gonna
that on?
change it.
That's
Look at it.
debatable.
We're gonna look
Well,
at it.
I think we are, there's some things we have to change in there, so.
We're gonna look at it, because we're not making
Well, it has to
decisions
come up for
today.
discussion, doesn't it?
Right?
Yeah, yeah, we have to review and look at it
But
again.
what is the reason for not putting the current bylaw on the website then?
I don't know if it's an issue.
Certainly can. Maybe you'd have a copy. That was allowed
Well,
active
it
if you
is
were a council member.
something the public would like to see, I'm sure. It is in transparency umbrella. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
Nope.
Okay.
Norma Halbert.
312 Evelyn Avenue. It was good to hear all the conversation about the playground. My one question is, in the diagrams that you have in the plan, is there a solid, fully accessible pathway that would take you either from where somebody is walking or where they exit their car to get onto that base. Because having something that's usable over there doesn't help if you can't get over there. So is there a solid, on the diagrams that you have? I think this can be answered tonight. You have diagrams. On the diagrams you have, is there a solid pathway from A to B?
That isn't in the existing design. The addition of the rubberized matting and the accessible base for the playground structure was a change order to an existing plan, a fee gravel plan. The design plan itself did not call for the construction of a path into the play structure. Certainly that's something that could be considered in a future path project.
So what would the plan be then? Like if kids were going to the play structure, would that be grass?
The area surrounded by sod.
Okay, so we'd have grass around the play structure.
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
Move here, Jim, and I think grass is relatively accessible. I don't think it's ideal, but it is relatively accessible, and as the CAO says, we can look at it at a future time, but
Yeah,
It's
I
not-
think
it's
for
not-
the future ones,
Yeah.
you know, you have to understand that it's a full
No, I hear
package,
you.
you know,
Yeah,
no,
we hear
no
you.
curb.
There has to be a way to
and,
get
yeah,
there.
There has to
Yeah.
be a solid path with no curbs.
Yeah. Yep,
Okay,
good point.
But not on this one, okay,
know.
good, thank you.
Can I just make one comment about the accessibility? Because as you were on the accessibility committee, and I was speaking about it when we were at the meeting that they did that launch in, can't remember which park. South End, they had a kayak launch, accessible kayak launch.
Bunch Creek.
Buns Creek, that's the one. Gravel is actually accepted in an accessible way. There's a special way you have to pack it in. I'm trying to get this report from that planner that actually did it. So there is a way that they recommend to do the quarter down with certain packing and stuff like that, that does make it possible with accessibility issues. Because that is built for an I saw a video on it, and there's an accessible kayak launch. So you're launching yourself right out of a wheelchair, and it's putting the kayak into the water. So, and I am working on getting that report from the planner.
So that takes us now to, oh, no one else? Okay, good. That takes us now to number 8 in camera. Okay, so we're concluded our meeting, so we're gonna adjourn the meeting. Committee of the whole meeting of council is adjourned at 10 PM on August 6th, 2024.